Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. I'm so excited to have my next guest on, and my friend. This is Chris, and Chris has been a raw vegan now for 20 years, and he's just rocking it. He's rocking it, and he's helping people get better, and he's just inspiring people through his videos. Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Paul. Thanks so much for having me on, brother. Stoked to be back.
Yes, yes, everybody. I'm gonna put his links below. He has so much great content, but I wanted to have him back on. I'll put a link to the last time he was on as well. Great information. So it's been a little while. So I just want to hear 20 years raw vegan,
Yeah.
and now where what's going on? I mean, is there any temptations to go back, or you're just going forward? Any new thoughts about how you're doing it? Did you change anything up, or what's been going on?
It's been fairly steady the last 20 years. I've tried a little bit of different things, of course. Sometimes eat a little bit more fat or, eat a little more vegetables, eat a little less vegetables, add different varieties, more variety, less variety. But I'd say, generally speaking, it's been pretty similar throughout the whole time. Last year, I started adding a little bit more sprouts and, sprouting legumes and stuff like that, playing around with that. Maybe actually the last 2 years. And I go through periods of time with or without those kinds of things. But in general, I'm doing great. I definitely don't see any reason to massively change things up or to go towards, foods that aren't in their raw natural state. That's definitely my favorite. Uh, I'm just really excited to continue growing and sharing and helping people with this lifestyle. I've been through a lot because I got into this because of skateboarding and wanting to heal faster and also depression and, candida and stuff like that. And all of those things still ring true. I'm 44. I just had my birthday. I heal really well and I'm skating still at this time. And I'm just enjoying it and loving it, man.
All right, that's great. So I've been doing this now 30 years, raw vegan, 20 years. So you got 50 years of raw vegan knowledge here, folks. And there's another
Yeah.
long-term raw vegan who kind of went back to cooked food, and that's not bad. If you're eating a little
Yeah.
cooked food, that's fine. I mean, even if you're not all vegan, that's fine. There's healthy ways to do everything. However, when people start new things, they get excited about new things. So he's eating
Yeah.
cooked food now, and he's kind of like, I don't want to use the words knocking 100% raw vegan, but
Mm.
he recently had somebody on his podcast saying that somebody got cancer on a raw vegan diet, and he's always
Yeah.
talking a lot about the raw vegan diet not being the optimal way. So
Mm.
why do you I mean, do you think raw vegan is the absolute best? And what do you say to people when they say it's not?
It's kind of a loaded question, Paul, but uh, I do think in the context of a healthy, well-rounded, holistic lifestyle where you genuinely enjoy the raw food diet and, it's something that you want to do, not that you think you should do, that yes, I think it is the healthiest option out there. I don't think Mother Nature got it wrong. And I don't think the entire history of the planet and every single animal that's ever been on it since the dawn of time had it wrong, eating their natural foods in their whole natural state. And sure, being opportunistic and having different things, but the mainstay of every species diet has been a whole ripe raw food diet. Whether it's eating other animals or the plants that they're more designed for, if they're herbivorous or frugivorous or anything like that. So yeah, I don't think that there's a necessity to add cooked foods, but if somebody is fixated on thinking they need to, or if they are really really study oriented rather than nature oriented, or if they just genuinely want to eat those foods. Some people just want to eat cooked foods, whether it's for this extra kind of heavy satiation, for the emotional kind of salving, or for the social ramifications. If someone really wants to do that, well, they're not going to thrive in the same way as somebody who's just they're loving it. They're doing it because they just enjoy it and it feels great, and they don't have any of those kind of worries about a most recent study that said, one food, if you're not eating it, you're not getting a certain microbe. It's just a different point of view, right? And so I don't think it's a definitive thing, but I do think in a vacuum and just in the kind of context again of like enjoying it and wanting to do it, and being well versed and well educated, I think it is the most natural, sound, and reasonable approach to optimal health.
Well, I have my thoughts that I'm gonna make another video about it. But what are your thoughts when you hear somebody who's eating a raw vegan diet and they're not getting the results you and I got? Like they're not, you and I are thriving on this, but
Yeah.
if they're not getting the same results, what are your thoughts on things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dogmatic, and I'll be honest. When I'm coaching people, I talk to them and I ask them what their goals are and what they want to do, and the impacts of where they live, all those different things. And I'm not like you must be 100% raw. I give them options and I point in directions, and I seldom deal with black and white. That's the way of the Sith. So I like to make things approachable and meet people where they're at and point in a direction. And be very honest with my feelings and thoughts if they ask anything whatsoever, right? So the big thing here is a lot of people want to pigeonhole everything on diet. Like if you're a raw foodist and you have a toothache, they're like, well, it was the fruit. It was way too much. If you get a sore leg, it's like, oh, well, you probably just don't eat enough meat. Like I've been told so many times, like, why don't you just add this and that? You'd heal faster. And it's like, man, every single doctor, my surgeon, my PT, my chiro says I heal the best of anyone. I just end up getting hurt because I play hard. Like I live life hard, and part of the reason I got into this is to heal faster, right? So all this to say though, like if somebody isn't thriving, I like to uncover why that is, and remove the cause. It's not always food. Sometimes it's their mindset. Sometimes it's their lack of sleep. Sometimes they're just a complete stress case. Maybe they're just worrying about little minutia kind of details that making mountains out of molehills, right? So I don't think it's a cut and dry thing, and each case has to be looked at individually. And people need to be really honest with themselves if they want to streamline their whole health package and find something that's comfortable for them right now. I think it's important to recognize that right now doesn't have to be forever. I do believe that for many people, at least probably most people, transition is a good idea. But being open to experimentation and trying things out, and not having any guilt, shame, or fear around that, knowing that this life is an exploration, I think is a very healthful viewpoint and perspective to, gain that wisdom through experience to find your own balance.
Now, what made you, 20 years ago, what made you decide I'm going to stop eating cooked food?
Well, it was a transition. I actually had like a 4.5 year transition from when I was smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, usually drinking every night, smoking lots of weed, and eating bacon double cheeseburger pizzas almost every day. That was like my last bit of lifestyle before I really kind of had my eyes opened. And the first thing that hit me was a yoga VHS tape in a Walmart $2 bin. And that really helped me because at that point, man, I was depressed. I was mildly suicidal. I had major jock itch, candida, joint pain. My dreams of becoming a professional skateboarder were falling away. So I needed a shift. And it was yoga that actually started that shift and then introduced me to the concept of karma, the impacts of eating animal products and different foods, non-foods. And so that began the trek towards looking into nutrition. And I found a book called Fit for Life, and that completely blew me away. Like it talked about food combining, it talked about eating fruit on an empty stomach, it taught about a lower fat diet and not being afraid of fruit in that context. And it talked about a holistic lifestyle and movement and all that stuff. And so it took me about 4.5 years going from what I said, that extreme kind of end, to high raw vegan, where I was eating fruit for breakfast, fruit and salad for lunch, and then usually a light cooked vegan dinner. And I did that for 6 months, and I was reading books from David Wolfe and Frederick Patnaud, and kind of like, man, I want to go all the way. I want to do all raw food, but I didn't totally understand how, and I was always kind of feeling a little bit of a lack, and do a couple raw days here and there, but it never really hit me how to do it really successfully. And at that time, I was going through school to become a registered holistic nutritionist, and I went to a vegan festival, and I was again already on track. I wanted to do it. I just couldn't figure it out. And at that vegan festival, there's 4 raw speakers, and one of them was Dr. Doug Graham, and he just blew me away. Like it's one of those moments. That Fit for Life book and meeting Doug was just one of those moments where it really felt like it was a movie where they're glowing, and it was just like, yes, every cell in my body's like, yes, And I talked to him at the end of the day. The next day, I went 100% raw, and my entire life changed because for that previous 4.5 years, man, I was doing all this for myself. I just wanted to skateboard better. I wanted to heal faster. But as soon as I went all raw, and like even school, I was learning just for myself. I had no intentions of doing it as a career. But that first day all raw, it wasn't necessarily just the raw food. I think it was also just that I met my purpose. I was just like, this is why I'm here. Like I want to share this with the world. It's amazing how much of a difference this can make. And it just completely shifted my paradigm. And it took me another like 4.5 years of applying the raw food diet before I felt comfortable, confident, and really motivated to start the Raw Advantage. And now it's been like 17 years of the Raw Advantage. But
So
yeah,
you
so that's
mentioned,
a long-winded
yes, you
explanation.
mentioned back then that you were going to school to be a registered nutrition.
Yeah.
So you achieved that goal. Now you're not only are you a raw vegan long term, but you're a registered nutrition, right?
A registered holistic nutritionist. So a nutritionist would, poo-poo me for saying not adding that holistic, right? But it was a 1 year full-time course where like I couldn't really work. And it's kind of interesting too, Paul, because my one teacher she was great, she was an Ayurvedist and really believed in Sally Fallon and that kind of, Weston A. Price kind of movement. And she told me it's really good that you're eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Like that's really great. But you want to be really careful because fruits and vegetables are cleansing foods. And if you continue on this path within 2 years, you will die. And it's like I was like, all right, and over time I'd send her information. And as years went by and I was still doing great, I'd send her information. And then one time she said, stop, like never send me anything again. And I mean, her nose was running. I'm not trying to ill talk, but she didn't look the epitome of health. And I like to take advice from people that I can just resonate with as actually living the example and exhibiting the results I look for. And that's a big part of the reason why I got into this and stay with it.
Absolutely. So what's been your opinion over the years on supplementation? So like has it changed over the years and where are you at now with that topic?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much the first decade as a raw foodist, I wouldn't say I was anti supplementation, but I'd be honest in saying that I had a pride around not supplementing. I thought it was like, I don't know, just like more elevated, more better, smarter. And so I avoided all supplementation. But my B12 reliably actually did go down to the point where I became symptomatic and quite low, like quite clinically deficient. It took almost 10 years. And at that point, after 3 yearly blood tests with my doctor, who he said the first blood test I had, he's like, this is the best results I've ever seen in my career. He's like, I thought you're going to need protein and iron and calcium. And he's like, no, you're like, I'm going to eat more like you. Like
When you
literally, I'm
said
not
your
kidding.
doctor, so you were going to a doctor even after you went raw?
6 years after 6 years of being 100% raw, my parents were like, hey, we'd like you to kind of get some stuff done. And so I was like, all right. So I went to my family doctor and I told him what I did for a living because I was already doing the Raw Advantage at that time. He's like, all right, we'll do a full like everything, like we did as many things as possible. And the only thing was I was a little low in vitamin D and a little low in B12, but everything else he was like perfect. Like he's never seen that good of results, honestly. And so after 3 times of doing that and seeing my B12 go lower and lower and lower to the point where it's very clinically deficient, I started supplementing B12. And so for the last decade, that's actually the only thing besides vitamin D in some winter scenarios where I didn't travel at all and I was in the north. And also when I got hit by a truck and I couldn't really be outside for 6 months. And I was, healing a lot of bones. I wanted to absolutely make sure I topped up with vitamin D. So I also took vitamin D. But really, vitamin B12 has been the main thing I've supplemented for the second decade with raw food.
Okay. All right. So that's what you're currently doing now as well?
That's what I'm currently doing now. And I've had more blood tests and stuff. I've had 8 total complete assays on my health, from urine to blood to hair to, omega 3 to 6 and all those kinds of things. And everything has been amazing. And, no concerns besides just that B12 in that first decade.
I see you on social media sourcing out some great fruits and as much as you can get. Give us an
Yeah.
example. What's your normal life, your diet on an average day? What did you eat yesterday, for example?
Yesterday, oh gosh. Okay. Yesterday I had, let me think, 'cause I just went shopping today and I was at the end of basically all my good food. So yesterday I had, wow, why is it hard to remember? Did I have a banana smoothie for lunch? I know last night for dinner, I had a raw curry, like a giant raw curry with a base of tomato and mango, some hemp seed, some flaxseed, and some partially dehydrated mushrooms, a head of romaine lettuce, and some sprouted chickpeas. But before that, it would have been, I'm pretty sure I had a banana smoothie. I was at the end of my produce. And today I just went and got like, I don't know how many kilos, probably about like 60 to 80 kilos of produce. And so, for example, right now, what I have for the next 10 days, I got 20 kilos of nectarines. I got about 10 kilos of tomatoes. I got about 12 kilos of honeydew melons. I got a whole bunch of bananas. I got a case of figs. Yeah, I got a lot of fruit, a case of romaine lettuce. Yeah, and a case of really nice mangoes from Spain. Oh, and a 15-kilogram watermelon, or no, 10-kilogram watermelon. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fruit,
How
lots of
big your
greens and
refrigerator,
vegetables.
man?
The only oh, I also got a case of grapes. So right now in my refrigerator, I got a whole case of grapes. I got a whole case of romaine lettuce. I got about a kilo of mushrooms because I actually really like mushrooms, partially dehydrated. I got a couple avocados, and otherwise everything else is outside of the fridge. So I got all my nectarines, all my bananas, most of my melons, my watermelon, my tomatoes outside. But I check every day, so like basically all I do is in the morning, I check what I have and I eat what's ripe. And if things start to get a little bit overripe, I put it in the fridge or in the freezer. But the fridge and freezer is basically just mostly for the greens and things that are starting to get close to, or, like worrying about them a little bit. So, there's a backup.
Sure, sure. So, what about juicing? Do you juice?
Not too much. Generally speaking, the most common juice I would have is orange juice, and that's really just really in citrus season. Like I could get oranges now, but they're from South Africa, and they're not as good, and they're way more expensive. So during citrus season, I love to juice oranges. I had a whole bunch of grapes recently that were just okay, and they were seeded, which I don't really love seeded grapes, to be honest. So I blended them lightly, and then I put them through a nut milk bag. But that was actually, I think, one of the first times I've ever had grape juice. I rarely eat or drink fruit juice. I'm just lazy, Paul. Like I'm a little lazy and I'm a little bit cheap. To me, juicing often is a bit of a waste. Like I've never really been a big juicer, and I've never had any nutritional concerns at all. And it also like it takes a lot of time and effort to do it. So if someone makes a juice, I would have if I had a girlfriend in the garden that was making juices for me every day from the garden, I would drink them every day. But I wouldn't make them myself.
Got you. Yeah.
And mainly green juice. I'm definitely a proponent of more green-based juices rather than fruit juices.
Have you seen the new Nama J2 juicer?
Yeah, I actually convinced my sister to get that. She had breast cancer and really went deep into juicing and fruit and veg and threw a whole bunch of other things at it, and she's clear now and she's still juicing a whole bunch and loves it.
Yeah, it makes juicing so much easier. It's really amazing.
Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
cool.
If I was going to get one, that would be the one I'd get for sure.
Very cool. Well, uh, so most people think, well, you can't be fit on a raw vegan diet. And I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I just interviewed a vegan bodybuilder. People think you can't grow muscle if you're not vegan. And I was like, this guy looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like, so
Yeah.
you're very fit. You do skateboarding. And of course, people say, oh, well, skateboarding's not a vigorous exercise. Well, any exercise is vigorous, especially when you get to the level you're at. So
Yeah.
tell us about your fitness levels and your diet. I mean, dispelling all myths that are out there that you can't be active and all this, because I know me that I now have more energy and I love exercising and I'm able to do it with no problem eating this way. So what about you? What's your experience?
Well, it's kind of funny, and you just mentioned enjoying exercising. And to me, that is one of the main kind of cruxes of this lifestyle and why I love it so much is what I find. And people often ask, like, why do you stay raw? And it's like, to me, there's a sharp contrast. And, I won't lie, in the last 20 years, I've had a couple cooked meals, and I've experimented feeling how that feels, especially in the beginning, first decade. And it's a sharp contrast where I almost feel it's like when I'm eating all raw, it feels like I have like technicolor, like I want to exercise, like I enjoy moving. And otherwise, it feels like I'm wearing sunglasses. Everything's muted just a little bit. And I feel like I should exercise, but I have to push myself to it. It feels like a little bit of a chore. So like you have that extra kind of buoyancy and energy that makes you really want to do things. Especially I think once you've streamlined and kind of gone through the beginning stages, social, emotional, physical detoxification and stuff like that, things get a lot more bubbly. So, uh, yeah, with fitness, I've always been pretty fit. I think that's been one kind of advantage I've had. I've been skateboarding since I was 5 years old, and it was like the biggest thing in my life. At one point in my life, I literally thought like I was saving the world skateboarding somehow weirdly, and I couldn't imagine living without it. So I've always been active with that. I've also done martial arts, like to jump on the trampoline. I'm a yogi, been doing that since '99. So I've always really enjoyed fitness. And I found it incredibly easy to recover. I found it really, really easy to put on muscle mass if I want. It's also incredibly easy just to maintain my fitness and have like a six pack and feel light and strong pound for pound eating this way. And I definitely eat predominantly fruit. I'm by no means a fruitarian, and I don't recommend a fruitarian diet, truthfully. But I eat basically fruit for breakfast. Often fruit is lunch. I usually just eat 2 meals a day, but it's fruit for the first bit, fruit before dinner, and then I eat a load of vegetables. Like it is often, if you include fruit vegetables, like cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, and greens, it's often like 2+ kilograms of veggies a day, sometimes more, 2 to 3. And, but it's wild, Paul, because like I've been light. Like I actually just finished a 8-day water fast. The first water fast I've done since I think 2012. I did a 11-day water fast in 2012, and I haven't felt a need since then, besides maybe like one day, here and there. And I got down to 158 pounds. I know you guys probably deal with pounds more. So I got down to 158 pounds from 178,
How tall are
in a
you?
week. 6'1", 5, almost 6'2".
Okay.
So I got like, for me, fairly light. But I mean, I'm already back up to 178 right now. Or no, yeah, no, I'm back up to 178. And the lowest I've ever been on that longer fast was 155. And the heaviest I've ever been is 199 pounds. And I went from actually after the motorcycle accident, I went down to 155. That was in 2018. And within 1 year of the motorcycle accident, I got up to 199 pounds because I was working out in the gym and putting on muscle at a rate that is considered the upper level of being able to put on muscle. And I was very low body fat percentage. Like I was still probably in the single digits, or at the most maybe 10 or 11%. Right now I'm at like 7%. And again, mostly fruits, lots of greens. I find it incredibly easy to put on as long as I just do the work. It's pushing it physically, getting lots of sleep, and eating enough calories from whole, fresh, ripe fruits and vegetables.
Sure. So let me ask, I got
I
a
still
couple.
got it. Yeah,
Yes,
check that
nice.
guy out. Yeah.
Nice. Very good, man. Nice. So let me ask a couple of questions. So when you got your blood work done after 6 years of being raw, and your parents said go get some blood checked, did they check your omega threes, your or anything like that? Because you said they checked a lot of stuff. Did they check that?
They checked a ton of things, but they didn't at that point. They didn't check my omega threes. I did that at a later date after I went through also Dr. Rick and Karen Dina's Mastering Raw Food Education course, actually in 2018, going into 2019 after that motorcycle accident when I couldn't be quite as active and stuff. I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to do this. I really respect Dr. Rick and Karen. They have what looked to me like the best raw food course out there, and I actually would say it's like it's a college level raw food course. It's really great. So I went through that, and with and through them, I got an omega 3 to 6 balance omega quant test. And separate from that, I've done like hair analysis and all that kind of stuff. And I've done like allergy tests and skin tests and so many different kinds of tests.
Well, how'd the test come out?
So the omega 3 to 6, it wasn't optimal, but it was good. It was within that range that is really, really healthy that you'd want to be seeking out. I hadn't at that point been focusing on it quite as much for a long period of time. I think probably since about 2019 or so, I've really focused much more on focusing on those omega 3 rich fats. So, hemp, chia flax being the absolute mainstays, but I'm also not fat phobic or like afraid to eat pumpkin seeds or tahini or avocados. It's just I make those other omega-3 rich fat sources my mainstay. And I've also learned that, realistically, when the absolute predominant caloric intake is from fruits and greens and vegetables, those are already really properly balanced, so it makes a much bigger impact if you're eating a higher fat diet, because then you're going to want to make a little bit more of a point to really favor those omega-3s, in my opinion, from my research and experience.
Okay. So, what about water? How much water do you drink?
I'd say on average, probably about a liter a day, but it can really vary between half a liter up to 3 or 4 liters, depending on what I'm actually eating, how hot it is, and how much I'm exercising. But I definitely go by the mode. If I'm thirsty, I drink. I don't eat food for water. Like I wouldn't, for example, if I was really thirsty, be like, well, I better have some watermelon. Even if I was having watermelon, I'd drink water first because, as I understand it, the sugar in fruit does require water. It's like 7 times the weight of the sugar water is required. So super sweet fruit. I mean, everyone experiences this. If you eat bananas, they're still like in the 70% water, but you get thirsty after eating them. Uh, it's the same with any sweet fruit. So I think water is really important. I drink it when I'm thirsty. I like reverse osmosis distilled or spring. It just depends where I'm at. But yeah, I like to drink water. Coconut. I would drink coconut water if I could instead of the water, but that's not really feasible out here.
Sure. And how much sleep do you get on the average? On the average?
I love sleep. I'm a cat. If I can, I like to get 8 or 9 hours a night. And as I said, I mean, I train pretty hard. I play pretty hard. I'm usually at the gym 4 days a week. And it's only usually half an hour to 45 minutes. I do like short, intense workouts, especially now that I feel like I have a great base. But if I sleep less than 7, I'm a little sad. But there's occasions. I mean, I can get by with less, but I like to thrive, and so I like to really prioritize good sleep.
Very good, very good. So, and what are you doing now? Are you coaching people? Are you making videos? What besides the skateboarding? Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing for work? How do you help people with what you've learned in the raw food?
Yeah, for sure. My consultations are probably the biggest thing. And, I don't overly promote, I sometimes I have 3 to 5 a week and sometimes more. And sometimes I have like 2 a month, and I offer by donation. And I also have coaching packages, like 1 and 3 month coaching packages, as well as an online course that I put together. Uh, but besides that, like I have like 12 ebooks. I'm a raw food chef, so I got lots of different recipe books. I got an app that is free to download with over 100 raw recipes. I'm an affiliate for lots of different things, from minimalist footwear to Vitamixes and Excaliburs, all that kind of stuff. Even now, rebounders, because I love rebounding a lot. I think it's really great for lymphatic drainage and it's just fun. It's a fun
What kind of
exercise.
rebounder do you use?
I researched a whole bunch and I ended up going for what is considered the Cadillac of rebounders, the Bellicon. And,
Okay.
I have a good friend who had the Bellicon and the Celsizer. And, I tried both and, I really, really love the Bellicon. So that's what I'm using and promote.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
besides that, yeah, I do events. So sometimes I do retreats or I've often chefed, spoken at, and taught yoga at festivals. Uh, and I also, something kind of fun, Paul, that I'm really excited about is I'm doing extra work right now and getting more into acting. I'm a Leo, and I love that stuff. Actually, before I started the Raw Advantage, that's what I was doing before it. It was really the last big job. Actually, that's a lie. The last job I had was framing, but before that, I was doing acting in Vancouver, and I'm really, really excited and loving that. And I did just take my first break. It's crazy. In 17 years of the Raw Advantage, I'd only taken 3 days off, like completely off in that 17 years. And I just took, it's kind of been a month where I've still been doing emails. I've done a couple consults here and there, but I really took it a lot easier and just like gave myself some space and some relaxation. It's, one of the few summers and few years that I'm not doing any events at all. I did one in January. So yeah, I did one in January, but the whole summer I haven't done anything, so I've taken it a little easy, and right now you might even be able to tell like things are bubbling up. I'm feeling kind of recharged. I kind of needed that break, and my excitement is high as it has or ever has been.
Well, that is amazing, and everything you're doing is wonderful. And I definitely recommend if people want experience from somebody who's doing it and learn, I'll put the links below to contact Chris and definitely check out his stuff and follow him on social media. Is there anything you want to add before we finish?
I just think this lifestyle is such a blessing, and it has so much power to completely, revolutionize your life. But it's not just about diet. And I often say that the raw food lifestyle is just a vortex of positive change that shines light on anything that is in discord, any dark webs within yourself, and it asks you to move through those things to expose them. It's like a flashlight on our dark parts, right? And it's not always easy. I don't think most people's journey is a straight line. And I think the most important thing with this is to be real with oneself, to be incredibly patient, incredibly loving, of yourself. Like, treat yourself just like you treat your best friend, or your lover or your family, and enjoy the process. It's fun, and learn from others who've been walking this, and don't be afraid to experiment, and just, I don't know, just have fun, man. This lifestyle is so fun, and it brings so much. It's so fun to share. So I'm just excited to help people with it, and to see other people shine and glow, and be lighthouses and spread this message out there, because the world needs it. The animals need it. People out there need it. So it's like, just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Life is sweet. Life is juicy, and it's savory at times. It's a good mix. Mother Nature, she's such a gift for us all. So that'd be my big message.
All right, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on the show here and tell everybody what's going on in your life. And man, it's great. Keep it up. I'm so glad you're thriving and keep in touch. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Put your comments and questions below. And again, I'll put all of Chris's links on his website below here in the description. So until then,
Thanks.
everybody, have a great day and keep growing.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life, brighten up your life.